X402 everything. I'm Erik. I'm the author of X402. I wrote the X402 spec. If you have issues with it, I'm the guy to talk to. Hopefully I can preempt a lot of people's issues today and later. I've had a lot of conversations with YC, and he's like, Erik, I've gotten to like layer 2 of understanding X402, and I'm starting to like see your point of view more and more. So I'm hoping we work together to make X402 as big as it can be. But let's start about what is X402. By a show of hands, who has heard of X402 before tonight? So most people have heard of X402 tonight. The rest of you, I assume, are just here for the drinks and the food. X402 is an open standard for internet native payments. I think that's like it's open, it's a standard, and it's for internet native payments. And so I wanted to walk through a little bit of how we got here, where we are now, and where I think we're going. So how we got here. We started with the internet. The internet started back in the 80s and the 90s out of CERN and out of the W3C, and we ended up with Web 1.0. This is largely reading information with academics sending each other papers and inventing a way to transmit data between different institutions around the world. Then we got Web 2.0. This is interactive. You can think of Web 1 as read, Web 2 as read and write. And the thing here is that the web at each point had a set of standards that pushed it forward. So in Web 1, we ended up with HTML, HTTP, and the www client, which was the original word for a browser as we know it today. And this let researchers have a common language to speak and a common way to connect their computers to share information across the globe. In Web 2, we added more standards and got more adoption of standards, and we ended up with JavaScript and Ajax and JSON that helps us now write applications that could not only receive data but send data. And this is how we ended up with kind of the modern world of tech that we have now, which is Airbnb, Uber, Amazon, all these companies where there's an interaction. We're empowered and enabled in the 2.0 era of the internet. And so it's very underrated, but the web evolves through standards. Every time you have a new standard that's put into place, you end up with an explosion of activity and new use cases that are now possible. And so you may, by show of hands, how many of you are technical or engineers in the room? So there's about a third of the people, and then a third of the people will have never seen anything like this before. But these are the literal bytes your computer is going to send when it wants to access a piece of data on the internet. This is what HTTP ultimately is a header, an instruction like post, an endpoint to hit, and then more data. And why this is so powerful is it creates a standard way for clients and servers to communicate where they don't now need to guess what is going to happen or how they're going to ask for something. There's an agreed upon mechanism that is used every time, billions of times a day, if not trillions. And so how did we get here? Well, the internet has had this concept of, the internet has known it needs a standard for payments for forever. Mark Andreessen, co-founder of A16Z, co-founder of Netscape, spent a lot of time in the 90s trying to solve this problem of how do you send data on the internet. And in fact, Mark had a quote, "The original sin of the internet is that we couldn't actually build economics, which is to say money, into the internet." And he tried to solve this problem for multiple years back in the 90s, working with credit card networks and other payment processors, but the tech just wasn't quite ready. And you see evidence of this in the HTTP spec, where you have this status code, HTTP 402. And this is the entirety of the spec. This is all that existed for 402 as a standard when it was enshrined into the internet, which is HTTP 402, payment required, status code is reserved for future use. And so I want to define internet native payments because I think it's worth spending a second on. I define internet native payments as a method for computers to programmatically exchange value. That means in a standard and neutral way within the existing client-server paradigm and without requiring a human to be in the loop. So where are we now? That's a bit of lore, a little bit of history. These slides are a little fresh, so apologies if they're not as snappy as they could be. Well, we're at AI, right? Like we're at the place where most people in this room would have used an AI application, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or some other new novel mechanism of interacting with a computer. And we're at this place where our standards have not caught up with the technology that are using these standards. So current web standards are really designed for humans who are operating computers that are then making requests to the internet. But we're now in a world where both humans and computers operate computers. One way to think of an LLM or to think of an AI chatbot is that it's a computer that's using your computer to do stuff, which is somewhat counterintuitive, but if you think about it, you'll realize it's fairly accurate. And so we've gone from a world where humans are the only users to humans and agents are now the users of the internet. But the UX has lagged, and we're only accounting for human-centric UX. And so AI is the forcing function to reevaluate this old problem from the 90s of internet-native payments. And the reason for that is because AI doesn't have a credit card. It can't enter a form. Every piece of friction that you add to an AI makes it less likely to succeed. And so we now need standards that these AI can use consistently to exchange value with each other. So enter x402. x402, internet native standard for payments. Really what x402 is a bridge between payments infrastructure and the internet. Every single PSP you've ever integrated with, every single payment method, whether it's Adyen or Stripe or, you'll have to forgive me, I don't know the common ones in Singapore. Every one of their APIs is different. Every one of them is bespoke. They're not interoperable. Anytime you've tried to send a stable coin, that's also a different standard that you need to interoperate with. x402 creates a common standard that stablecoins being, I think, the first, but eventually fiat methods as well, can latch onto and adopt in order to create a common way of transmitting value on the internet. There's a lot of layers to x402. I might skip this slide a little bit because the audience is a mixed in how technical it is, but x402 contains enough layers where you can define abstractions and serve multiple use cases. I tweeted this out, so if you're taking photos, just check my Twitter feed. Each one of these concepts is analogous to parts of how the internet itself works, and you can vary each one of these to adapt x402 to a variety of use cases. And so it's not just tied to even HTTP, it's not just tied to a single chain or a single currency. All of these are variables that you can change and make x402 work under different circumstances. I'm probably going to skip this one because just for time, but anyone who's gone in the x402 repo has seen this diagram. I remade it for another talk and made it a little cleaner. But this is fundamentally how x402 works. If you go to github.com/coinbase/x402, it's also there. Where are we now? Well, we're going parabolic, right? The x402 in the last 30 days has had coming up on 20 million transactions. I bet you if we refresh this now, we'd be at 20 million transactions. It's had almost $12 million of transaction volume, and there's been 250,000 buyers, 250,000 unique buyers of x402 content. And the thing that's interesting about this is if you look at this, that number of volume is lower than that number of transactions, which is not the case in any other payment rail on the planet. Stablecoins have enabled sub-dollar transactions to be common, right? Because stablecoins, in my opinion, are the best way of sending money around the world that currently exists. It costs 1/100 of a cent on a modern blockchain to send stablecoins, whether you're sending $1 or $1 million. There's no percent-based fee. If you charge $1 with x402, you're going to receive $1 as payment. And so what we see is these new microtransaction patterns where AI can make purchases that are very small for things that just make their lives slightly easier and make them more likely to succeed. So where are we going? This is an AI-generated image, by the way. It took me a while of Nano Banana to get it right. According to A16Z, stablecoins are now rivaling the largest payment networks in terms of volume. So unadjusted, they anticipate stablecoins are on track to do 46 trillion in payment volume. That's larger than Visa. That's larger than ACH. Adjusted for removing exchange transactions, it's 9 trillion, which is still a lot. Still a lot. And it's becoming clear that stablecoins being such a good form of money movement mean that they're very likely to be the optimal way for AI to pay for stuff and for AI to become an economic actor in the system. And so A16Z anticipates that by 2030, we'll see $30 trillion in purchases made or influenced by AI agents. And so you hear people talk a lot about this concept of agentic commerce, which I think does not have a firm definition in anyone's mind, but I'll give you two. So I think of agentic commerce as two buckets. One, which is conversational commerce, which is you talking to ChatGPT or Claude and making purchases that normally you would go directly to a website like Amazon or Shopify and buy direct from the merchant, to you using an AI agent to help you research and then the agent helping you make the purchase, but you're still in the loop. And then I think of it as autonomous commerce, where your agent is doing microtransactions or paying to make themselves slightly better. And you may see cases where both of these are happening at the same time. Let's say I want to buy a new pair of shoes. I could ask ChatGPT, hey, like what shoes are there to buy? And it may need to pay 10 cents for access to different information about the shoes that are available on the market and different reviews. And it may need to pay small amounts of money in order to gain the context to make an informed recommendation to me so it doesn't hallucinate. And then it may ask me, hey, these are the shoes I recommend. Do you want to purchase it? And I make the final purchase decision through ChatGPT or Claude. And we're at a really interesting point in time in internet history because we're disintermediating the way that people consume content. More and more people are consuming the internet via interfaces like ChatGPT or Claude. And that is kind of terrifying to a lot of businesses on the internet because it disintermediates this flow, which is largely at a high level how you can think the internet works, which is an ad-based paradigm where there's some website you visit. In the background, some merchant has paid them to show you an ad. You go to the website, they show you a bunch of content and then a bunch of ads. And then you, at some point, convert on the ad and buy something from the merchant. And there's like CPM or CPC, cost per acquisition, all these metrics on how do you convert from ads into like dollar value. And companies like Meta will let you literally say like, I'm willing to pay up to $1 per person that converts and just automates the entire ad flow. It's very sophisticated. But AI agents mean that you don't see those ads anymore. You just see the text in your chat box, right? And AI agents aren't as influenceable by ads as humans are. ChatGPT is going to ignore the 15 banner ads on the website that you're visiting to do its research and just tell you the content. And so this model kind of breaks under pressure if everyone switches to using these chat-based interfaces. And so what you ideally need is something where you can have your AI just directly pay to access that content. It might be paying even like a fraction of a cent, but some value is still going to the content publisher or going to the website to create the incentive to actually publish content online and to have a robust internet of activity. And everyone's probably heard of these giant AI companies scraping the internet and then using it to train LLMs. That's like not inherently a bad thing if those people were compensated appropriately for the data that was used. But there's been no mechanism to actually do that because micropayments haven't been viable, there are no payment standards on the internet, yada yada, x402 good. So where's x402 going? It's going in a lot of places, we're doing a lot of things. x402 is moving to a foundation. It'll no longer be owned solely by Coinbase, it'll be under a foundation model. It's likely going to be a Linux Foundation JDF, which is similar to how projects like Python and Node.js and PyTorch and Next.js are all governed. We're hoping to have that done by the end of the year. It's non-trivial to set up a foundation in a way that actually is going to let the projects thrive. You got to be very detailed in the setup, so we're hoping by end of year it's live. The V2 spec has been effectively finalized and is going to be merged any day now. Development is, I think, like 85% done, and so keep an eye out for the V2 spec of x402. I think it will answer and solve many issues with the x402 V1 that people have. It actually was, we had the developer call like 2 days before x402 really went viral and blew up, and I'm kind of glad we did because it would have been a lot noisier and a lot more people in the Hangout. Extensions are part of x402 V2, which allows for more experimentation, more flexibility in how people use x402 as a standard. Go read the V2 changelog proposal if you want to read about those. I have a proposal drafted but not submitted yet for arbitrary ERC20s. We've always wanted to do this. It's just difficult to do right and adhere to the principles that x402 overlays. But I think I have it. I was telling YC about it the other day, or YQ about it the other day, and I think he liked it. And then more schemes. We have deferred coming. We have nano transactions coming, and a bunch of more stuff that I just couldn't think to put in this slide. There's a lot of activity happening in x402. Highly encourage everyone to play around and submit proposals and use extensions as a way to battle test new ideas without them needing to be merged into the main x402 repo. Where does this lead us? I think we get more powerful AI. If AI can purchase context or use tools that help it do better at its job, I think all AI applications just get immediately better. I think we end up with money that moves more like data than it does like current money, where you can attach payment into any piece of data on the internet or via MPC or any other protocol. I think we get more competition. I think we get substantially more competition at the payment rail layer, and we let stablecoins really kind of see to push all financial service providers on to be their best and build products that really attract people. I think we get significantly more utility in crypto, where crypto is kind of fulfilling the original Bitcoin white paper promise of being peer-to-peer electronic cash. And then I think we get new modalities of commerce. If you now can monetize an API or a website and your target audience is AI that simply wants to pay you a cent to use a useful tool, I think you end up with new businesses that sprout and new potential mechanisms of creating value for others on the internet that have never existed before. And then I think hopefully we end up with a true upgrade to the internet and a new standard that pushes us forward and unlocks new potential. So what can all of you in this room do in order to help this happen? I think all of you can help by building. We are in the position right now where the technology is ready. We have standards in place that enable things to be built. And so big shout out to everyone here who's taken x402 and tried to build something with it. We all just need to be experimenting and building right now to make sure that we get the most out of this technology and push this revolution along. So I want to give a big shout out to the Questflow team and to Hassan and Coinbase Singapore, but most of all I want to thank all of you for coming out and for building with x402. That's it.